Hey Sean, let's take a look at your revision here. I'm just reading a note. Lots of reference for squirrels this weekend affecting how much their tails move, so I try to get that feeling in the tailor. Okay, well, I'll get into that. Let me look at your revision first. And then... Good. That looks great. The only thing is that I kind of expect this first swing, and it's not much, but just a little bit more, a little further out, like that. Like it's almost too subdued, and then that one's great, and the other ones are working pretty well. But yeah, that timing feels a lot better, and that works. But yeah, it's only that first one I expected to go a little bit further, and it's also just based on how high this goes through here. Because it goes so high, I expect it to go a little bit further out. So yeah, that's it. It's a nice settle, and everything else works really well for that. So good job. Okay, let's take a look at your devastation pose. Nice. Yeah, this looks really good. I think the only thing I would change is I would bring that forearm in a little bit more, just because it let's see if we can do that. It feels like it's unnaturally stretched out. And it's okay to do that on a pose. It's okay to like stretch it out as long as the audience doesn't know that's what's happening. And in this case, it feels like that's what's happening to me. So I would just bring it in a little bit more. It's the same hand pose, same everything, but it looks like it's a little bit too stretched right there. So otherwise, yeah, that looks really good. I like it. All right, good stuff. Let's take a look at your tailor assignment. Okay, got your planning here. Let's see what you have. Nice. Great stuff. Okay. So yeah, in terms of what you were saying here, like you can't remember the lecture, but there is an animator talking about not having repetitive rhythm in your animation, and that's true. Like you want to break it up, and the best way is like have a little bit of rhythm and then break it up with a contrast. It's just like a song or anything else like that, where you break things up. You start with a little bit of rhythm, and then you break it up, and that makes that with that contrast, that brings a little bit more interest into your animation. Overall, the tail work here, the overlap on the tail and everything looks really nice, and you did a great job there. You got really nice clean arcs as your character goes through, especially like with this jump here. Like we're really looking at the arc here, and we're getting a really nice feel there. And the only part is at the end, I feel like as you're bringing it under here, it kind of takes away from that arc, and because your character is going off screen, you can just like keep it here, and it's not drawing it. And yeah, like it goes off screen. Like you can just clean that up a little bit, and just make that a really nice clean arc there. But yeah, overall, really good job. Take a look at the main body there. Great job on the contact frames. We're getting a sense of the landing, and we're seeing that squash and stretch through there, and that looks really good. Now, the thing is, with that, I'm not sure why you didn't put one here and on either side of this. Oh, maybe because it's more of like a, let's see. Yeah, it's more of like an uncontrolled thing. That's fine. But if that's the case, like I feel like that stop here, like if this is uncontrolled, this stop shouldn't be so sudden. Like there should be like some sort of flailing there. So maybe like your character rotates forward before they go back, and there's like some sort of sliding. Like we should really get the sense of like that control is like, whoa, I didn't really get my footing there. So yeah, just think about that. Like it just stopped a little too perfectly for us to understand that it's uncontrolled. But yeah, great job on these. Now the thing is, with this bounce, that's great, good contact here, but the second bounce is so much higher than this first bounce that I would like to see just like a little bit more ease in and ease out, or squash and a little bit more frames in that squash and stretch. So you have that contact here, and then maybe add another frame of it going to neutral pose, just like a little bit less, and then you have that squash, and maybe hold that squash for 2 frames. It doesn't have to be the exact same amount of squash, but like it goes squash and then maybe a little bit more, and then it goes out again, and then it starts to push off the ground with a few more frames. Now the reason why you want to have that is because it's a higher jump, and so there's going to be a little bit more energy, a little bit more anticipation, and a push off the ground there. So we want more frames in that area there. And I like the exaggeration that you're putting here in the timing on this bounce here. It's especially nice. But you don't really need to put squash and stretch here. Like the stretch is, I feel like, kind of taking away from the overall. It's just like it feels like it's just like an unnecessary thing. Like it's in a nice place. And it's okay to have it, but I would reduce it by maybe even like 30%, 40%. Like reduce it by a lot, just because it feels like it's kind of we're seeing it too much, a little bit more than we're feeling it. And then through here, this jump, this is the biggest jump. So yeah, this is where we really need that. So that's good, but I think I would add one more frame going into that contact. So between here and here, I'd add one more frame between that. You want to be careful not to slow it down too much. So if adding that frame does, it just feels like it needs that sort of that push a little bit stronger. And we also need an anticipation there because it's such a big jump. We have to show your character go up and then go back down before that bounce. Right now, just going down into that, because it's such a big move, I would want to see that a little bit more. Now I like this landing. Again, there's no contact there, but it feels more uncontrolled. But the same sort of thing, like I would want to see your character not just stopping there, and maybe like rotating forward a little bit more, like almost like they're gonna roll off balance, but then they jump out of it. So it just feels like it stops a little too perfectly for it to feel uncontrolled on that one too. But definitely a really good start. You're on the right track here. Everything looks really good, and you took my notes really well in terms of like putting that contact frame there. And so great job. All right, that's it, Sean. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.